truly what is for you won't go past you. If God's like, this is yours, it's gonna happen for you. That's why I relate to what you're doing.
If you could do it, they could do it too.
You can do it.
Yeah. You
Si
could
te
do it.
puedes, si se puede.
Yeah.
You can make a movie on your iPhone.
Exactly.
You could upload it on YouTube.
You worked with Tyler Perry, like movies, Why Did I Get Married and What Did I Get Married To?
Like I love teaching acting as much as I love directing, as much as I love acting. Because I love discovery. I love bringing things to life.
We had Zach Braff and we were just talking about.
He said right here, Zach Braff. Donald Faison, Zach Braff, CK, see the collection? Oh, baby. And my father would always say, build your own generator. So when they turn off the power, you still have lights. You see how I just gave you something to cut? Boom, bang.
Welcome, guys. Welcome to Learn Filmmaking. Today we have Malik Yoba.
I like that. Yoba, Malik Yoba. Sí, que lo que.
Yes, thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, man.
Good to be here.
Thank you for taking the time.
Malik Yoba is an award-winning actor for his iconic roles in Fox New York Undercover, Disney Cool Runnings, and Tyler Perry's Why Did I Get Married and What Did I Get Married To? He's a 3-time NAACP Image Award winner, also acted in TV shows like Fox Empire, Sci-Fi's Off Us, and NBC Revolution. Beyond acting, he is an entrepreneur, film educator, and a devoted father, making a lasting impact through his work in community development and education.
And also an amazing human being.
Thank you. Y tú también, hermano.
Thank you, brother. I like your Spanish.
That's why I can accept Yoba, Malik Yoba, because it's Y. That means Y for y'all that don't know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
But your Spanish is really good.
Oh, thank you. Growing up in the city.
Wow, I'm loving it, man. I feel like we could just get this whole interview in Spanish.
Nah, we
know?
You could, I could.
Me neither. I'm like really bad too. So good to have you here. I know you're from the Bronx. That's where I'm from also. So we could relate a lot. It's basically inspiring the next generation of creators and filmmakers and showing them that if you could do it, they could do it too.
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah, you could
Si
do
te
it.
puedes, si se puede.
Yeah. Let's go. So yeah, let's talk about your journey becoming an actor.
Yeah, that was a dream. It was all a dream. It started when I was young, man. I was 4 years old. I saw Alice in Wonderland on stage. So I saw a play with my mother, and whatever that magic was, I said I want to be a part of that. And then, of course, in the Bronx back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And here in New York, because we ultimately moved to Spanish Harlem. But you still had drama clubs in school. So you could, either take drama classes during school or be in a after-school program. So it really started for me in the theater. That was the magic. We used to write plays, make costumes and sets and write scripts and charge our parents or neighbors to come see the play.
I love that.
And then, all through junior high school, I was a part of the Metropolitan Opera Children's Theater Guild. So the Met had a program where they would go around the city and they would audition kids. Those that got selected, they would teach us to write. They would teach us to make costumes, to make lights. We would take the old souring coffee cans and cut them and put a little light bulb in it. And so we made stage lights. They would take us to tour the Met, the opera, and see opera. So when I was in high school, my father wouldn't let me go to performing arts high school because he didn't believe that, I should pursue the arts, even though he moved to New York when he was 15 to be a musician. But he didn't want us to get our hearts broken, essentially. So he wouldn't let me do that. And I ended up going to Park West High School at 50th Street. I got shot when I was 15.
Wow.
And so leaving school one day, it was a fight in the street. And when I got shot, I told my father, see if I was in the theater program, this would have never happened. So then he let me go to Julia Richmond, Talent Unlimited program. So I did that for a bit. While I was there, the Negro Ensemble Company still had a theater on 55th Street. So the Negro Ensemble Company, which was started in the 60s by Douglas Turner Ward, it was the preeminent Black theater company in America. Really, you had other places around the country, but Sam Jackson, I met him there when I was 16. I was working as an usher there. Felicia Rashad,
Oh, wow.
Angela Bassett, Denzel came through there, Adolph Caesar. So I really grew up as a kid in the city, like wanting to be on stage. I used to watch Sam. He did this play called Color People's Time.
Yeah.
And it was a play during the days of slavery. And his character used to have to play the bones. But they used to use literal bones to do it. And so he had this scene where he would play the bones. And the play, they were made out of wood. But he taught me to play the bones. That's really where I'm going with this story.
Yeah.
As a teenager. So that was magic for me, man. Still watching actors on stage live. And then once he started making movies, as a kid, I was like, the first movies I saw him show up in was Spike Lee's movies. I was like, yo, that's Sam Jackson. Like, it's kind of that if he could do it, I could do it kind of thing, to your earlier point.
Yes.
Same thing with Felicia Rashad. Watching her, she was doing a play called Puppet Play. And I used to sit at the back of the theater and learn every line from every play, me and my sister, Amina. So yeah, it started for me in theater, and then later on I had some chance to do some films.
It's a beautiful story, and also it's unfortunate that you had to go through, that difficult time for you and your family. When that happened to you, did that push you to see life is
Short.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is a motivator. Life is short. A lot of people take things for granted.
Yeah.
I've just never been that person. And, I don't think I thought about it as consciously. I know I didn't, in fact, because I was probably in my 20s when it really hit me how lucky I was, because I got shot in the neck, right? So the kid was pretty close and it just grazed me. But there was a new, 60 Minutes I was watching or something, and it was a 15-year-old kid that got shot, but he got shot in the stomach, but like literally his stomach. So he had no stomach. Like he had a bag or something. I remember thinking like, wow, I was the same age as this kid when I got shot, and just looking at him on the news, seeing how young he was. That's when it really, really hit me. And what's crazy is I went to go do the movie Cool Runnings 10 years to the day I got shot.
Oh, wow.
Here's another crazy story.
What?
So I was doing a show called Alphas on Sci-Fi, and I was in New York, and I was doing press. I was when Wendy Williams still had a TV show. So her studio was on 56th Street or something like that, and between 9th and 10th. So I'm leaving the studio, driving down 9th Avenue with a friend of mine. And as we're approaching 50th Street, where I got shot, between 8th and 9th Avenue, as we're driving, we're approaching 50th on the southeast corner. There was a dude standing on the street who's the guy who told another kid to shoot me. So the first time I ever saw that guy, he was standing on that corner. As we're approaching the street, I'm telling my friend in the car with me, like, yo, this is the street where I got shot. But on that street was a phone booth with my picture for the series Alphas, right on the corner of the street where I got shot. Crazy. True story. I did that. I literally stopped, I stopped talking. I was saying to her, like, yo, that's the street where, oh shit.
Wow.
And it was me on the corner. And my film career started 10 years to the day that I got shot. I don't know what to do with that. Or what that means.
God. Yeah.
There's a lot of that in life, though, where things come around full circle. You live long enough, you'll see it happen a lot.
Wow.
Crazy.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's very deep. I don't even know what to say neither.
But there are moments when that are sort of affirmations.
Yeah.
Where, it's like you doing this, like me being on this couch with you right now. You having yo, I can't believe Malik Yoba's here.
That's true. That's how I feel right now.
Yeah. So.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Somebody that is from the Bronx, like myself, coming out of the Bronx, do you find it harder to break into the world of Hollywood? Was it harder for you?
Well, I think my story is very, very, very unique because I was not trying to break into Hollywood.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned, I was a theater kid.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd be on Broadway. And I'm a musician. So for me, it was easier to chase music. I'm a songwriter, singer, play guitar. I would do shows around the city. You could pull up in the subway and open your, guitar bag. And I did that, or play in Washington Square Park back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, little open mics around the city, because you can control that.
Yeah.
Like I could just pull up and perform. I don't have to wait for somebody to give me permission. But being that I was a kid in theater in the city, I would hear about auditions. And I would go on stuff, but never got it. Like I auditioned for Fame, the TV show, when I was 15.
Oh, wow.
So after I got shot and I was in the theater program, I went to Julie Richmond for the Talent Unlimited program. So for me, music was the thing.
Okay.
Trying to pursue music. And then, but I was also really passionate about education.
Okay.
So I started working with kids when I was a kid. I started working in after-school programs when I was 16, or 17. So I started doing that in Harlem with kids at this place called Upward Front After-School Program. They let me go because I didn't let them know if I was going to return for this particular summer. So they let me go. I knew about this other spot called City Kids Foundation, and that was downtown in Tribeca. And I went down on a Friday night, and I met the founder. Every Friday night they would have what they call the City Kids Coalition meetings. And a lot of people came out of City Kids: Isaiah Washington, Donald Faison, Dule Hill. I met Lauryn Hill there when she was 16. Lisa LaPera, who's now on Equalizer, the little Filipina woman. Dash Myhawk, who was just in Ray Donovan. So all of them were like part of City Kids at one point or another. But I was more interested in running the organization than being in the theater program. Again, because I'd see them go for auditions and they'd be mad they didn't get it. But I was about the business of how do you run this organization. And so when I met the founder, she had a vision to create something called the Manhattan Empire, which was going to be this $100 million real estate project in Times Square before Times Square was gentrified. And her name was Laurie Meadoff, and she wanted to make it the most youth-focused institution in New York. And I was trying to build something called the International Youth Culture Center. Mm-hmm. And this is a dream that came to me because I used to be a BMX kid. So before there was parks, there was no skate parks in the city, but I was a racer. So I used to have to ride my bike over the George Washington Bridge to go race in Jersey. And I met with the Parks Department again at 17 to try to build a BMX track in New York City, in Central Park. And dude looking at me like, great idea, kid, never gonna happen. So, but I wanted to create a space that was centered around BMX, but then you would have all these services for kids.
Yeah.
So when I meet Lori, by this time I'm 19, and I had gone to my first City Kids meeting, and I tell her this vision. She tells me her vision about the Manhattan Empire. And so she's looking at me as this 19-year-old, like, you know what, I like you, kid. I'm gonna hire you. So she hires me. She hired me as something was called a junior chapter specialist, which meant that myself and one other person out of a team of 10 would service 13 high schools in New York. And so my job was to go to a school, and the City Kids rep would come, the repertory company with all them now famous people I told you about. They would perform, kids would get excited, and I'd be the dude to facilitate, like, okay, so if you like the performance you just saw, meet us in room 101. And then we'd run these workshops and give kids, teach them to find their voice.
Nice.
To make a difference in the school community. They could contribute to how they wanted to learn, who was teaching them, and all the things that would make them want to stay in school.
Right.
So over a 3-year period, I was doing that work with City Kids. Occasionally, I would join the repertory company and perform a monologue or something, or sing a song, or write a song that they would perform. But again, I was interested in running the organization. And so I did that for 3 years. And by 23 years old, she made me the vice president. And then the grant ran out that was funding that. I show up to work one day. So I tell her, don't worry about it, I'll volunteer, because I still had some other ways to make money. I was a waiter at a restaurant on the Upper West Side called Cafe Luxembourg. I show up to work one day and there's a flyer on the wall. And it's an audition. It says paying $325 a day. And so since she had no money, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do that audition. So I go to this audition and I get the film. And it's called Seriously Fresh. And it was a film about there was a late 80s, people still weren't sure how people were getting AIDS. And so there were these short films that were being made to play at schools and clinics and things like that. And so I auditioned for this film. The director was a guy named Reggie Life, who at that time was a well-known director of The Cosby Show. First day of filming, a guy's on set who wrote it. His name was Jamal Joseph. Jamal had just gotten out of prison for his role in the Black Panther Party. He was also Tupac's godfather.
Oh, wow.
So he's telling me about his life in the Black Panther Party. And it's like August of 1989. And I said, hey man, I run this organization with these kids. I would love for you to come talk to my kids about your time in the party, because he was 15 when he was in the Panthers. And I want you to talk to these kids during Black History Month. So he agrees to do that. On the way home, right? So he tells me he has this film he wrote called Liberated Territory. He's like, you know what? I want you to play me in this movie, Liberated Territory, he wanted me to play him in this movie about his life. On the way home, still living in the Bronx, I was on Allerton Avenue at the time. If you know the Coops by Barker Avenue, I'm on a 2 train, and then I see these 2 guys, and it looks like they're reading a script. And they look like actors, and so when I'm about to get off, I stand next to them, I look down, and it's a script. And I said, yo, you guys actors? They're like, yeah. I said, what are you guys reading? They said, oh, it's a film named Liberated Territory by this guy, Jamal Joseph. I said, bro, I literally just shot my first day with Jamal on the film. Those 2 guys was Alan Payne and Reggie Bythewood. So Alan went off to do New Jack City and a bunch of other shit after that. And then Reggie became a writer on New York Undercover. Wow. And married Gina Prince Bythewood, who Woman King and, Love and Basketball. And so it's a long ass answer to your story, but how I broke Hollywood. So after I did that little film, it was Jamal Joseph that called me up and said, hey man, they're doing this movie about the Jamaican bobsled team. You go down to SOB. It was an open call. So I went down to SOB, did an improv about how I taught Bob Marley how to write music. Completely forgot about it. 2 months later, I'm at a meeting at Greenpeace, and I got a call from Disney. They tracked me down at the office.
Oh, wow.
They said, can you fly to LA tomorrow to screen test? You auditioned for this movie 2 months ago. And I was like, oh, I got a job. I just can't leave. I go talk to Lori, my boss.
Yeah.
And she says, you better go. And I went and screen tested. That was in 1991. Got the movie. And then on Christmas Eve of 91, I got a call from the producer, Dawn Steele, and she says, Disney has decided that they don't want to make the movie. And she's like, but don't worry, I'm gonna get this movie made. 8 months later, I get another call. Hey, there's a new director. Originally, Cool Runnings was gonna be a drama. It was a whole different script, whole different approach to the movie. And because originally it was gonna be Touchstone Pictures that did it. Mm-hmm. And Buena Vista picked it up, another division of Disney, and Dawn got it funded. And I got a call 8 months later. Hey, there's a new director, he'd like to meet you. And I was like, nah, I'm busy. I'm recording an album. You only get me to come to LA at screen test. I ain't doing that shit. And then they're like, no, he really wants to meet you. So long story short, I go to LA, get the movie. And then when that movie came out in October of 93.
Wow.
And then within 5 months of the movie coming out, I booked 2 Miramax films, AT&T commercial, an episode of Law and Order, and booked New York Undercover. And that's what made me oh shit, I guess I'm an actor now.
Nah, that's incredible. So
a
you
long
really
story,
wasn't.
dude.
No, I love that you share that whole story, because now I have a picture of that. It wasn't your intention to get into Hollywood. It was just something that picked you, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
It chose you.
Exactly.
You've been chosen.
I was sure, like you.
Thank you,
Same
but
like you. That's why I relate to what you're doing.
appreciate you.
Because you know, sometimes we get called to do things. And although I was, I love acting but I was not one of those people
Yeah.
that was like, I gotta make it. It was it's never been that way.
Oh, wow.
My whole career, it's never been that way. Like I would struggle with like, how much do you want to be A-list?
Yeah.
Like, cause I know actors that like, that's all they wanted. You know, I always felt like I gotta have some shit I can control, like that I own. That's like not contingent on, you're as good as your last 5 minutes in Hollywood, right? Like, oh, what's your last thing? Like people really see it that way.
No, it's true.
People are very limiting in how they could see you. And so for me, that was.
There never was that. So do you think it got easier becoming an actor now? You think people need to move to Hollywood? Like
Absolutely
to
not.
make it?
No, you can make a movie on your iPhone.
Exactly.
You could upload it on YouTube. You could look at Country Wayne on Instagram. That dude makes millions of dollars doing that shit. And he's basically the same model as like Curb Your Enthusiasm, structured improv. So yeah, you could make stuff. You don't have to wait.
Yeah, and the thing is, a lot of people right now, like they have like self-doubt, and it's like it's daunting for them to put themselves out there. Also, like for somebody that it's going through something, they feel like they're not good enough for a role, for whatever it is that they're into. How do you deal with that?
Some people aren't good enough. They suck. No. I mean, at the end of the day, what's for you won't go past you. So I think a lot of times people worry, about those things, but truly what is for you won't go past you. If God's like, this is yours, it's going to happen for you.
Preach.
Yeah. But it's true. Like we don't live in a world of woulda, coulda, shoulda. That's all here. But what's actual is that like you and I are really sitting here. It's not like a week ago, like, hey, we're going to do this thing. No, today we're here, right? So there's that.
You're right.
Yeah, I think that, self-doubt is a natural part of the human condition. Some of us have it more than others based on any set of circumstances or conditions or whatever. But
it's true.
But there is a discipline in making sure that you're keeping your mind focused on the things that you want to actualize. Be mindful, particularly if you are a person who wants to serve something bigger than yourself. Just know that the first real estate you own is in your mind. And so that's where you got to make your first investment.
That was good. Yeah.
That's a quote I use all the time.
Is there any piece of advice you would like to give your younger you or someone starting out?
So one of the biggest mistakes I ever made in my career, there's a couple. So when you're the new kid and like you're the hot new kid and like you're in everything and you're in ads and campaigns, and I was that guy at one point as the new young 20-something-year-old. And I have this meeting set up with Amy Pascal, who's the head of, Columbia at the time. And so I go with my manager, this woman, Donna Chavou, who used to be an agent at CAA, and she became a manager. And so she didn't prep me for the meeting other than like, we're going to meet Amy Pascal. So there, she's like, so like, what do you want to work on? Like, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm opening this restaurant in New York. I got this album. I'm talking about everything but the film business. But if I was Mark Wahlberg in that moment, based on what Mark told me his strategy was, I'd have been like, yo, can you set up a meeting with me and Quentin Tarantino? How about like, with Spielberg or Scorsese, or I would have looked at who they had contracts with, who they were working on deals with, and said, hey, I would love to meet this director, this writer. Mm-hmm. If I was trying to architect a career in Hollywood, but I wasn't thinking like that. I was too busy thinking about, I know you're the head of like all this stuff, but I'm just letting you know I got all this shit going on. So I would have not done that.
Okay.
I would have gone in. If I was somebody that was really trying to architect a career,
correct,
because it's hard to really do that.
Right.
But when the heat's on you, it's a lot easier. So every generation that has a new young crop of talent, it's a lot easier to take those meetings and be very intentional if you're clear with where you want to go in the business. got a series did for Netflix. I did in South Africa. It's called The Kings of Joburg. So that'll be on January, and did a film that's on Tubi early this year.
Nice.
And so I'm doing stuff. There's 3 scripts right now that I've read in the last couple of weeks that I'll play in. But I'm also helping to bring money to them.
Yes.
And be a producer on them.
I love that.
So
Now it's more than acting, basically.
it's always been more than acting, and yeah, I've just always. I mean, I love acting. I love storytelling.
Yeah, I know you do. Yeah.
So for me, like people say, what do you like the most? Like I love teaching acting as much as I love directing, as much as I love acting, because I love discovery. I love bringing things to life. I love getting things to a place where you can feel something.
Yeah.
Right? Because words on the page may or may not make you feel it. But the ability to extract meaning and nuance and depth and color and texture and rhythm, like that's all part of it, right? How fast you say something, how slow you say something, what it like, depending on who wrote it. Like if you do an August Wilson play as a for instance, right? There's a certain rhythm in the writing of that, and it's very dense material, and so there's a way to approach that work like a musician almost. From a directing standpoint, I love being able to hold the whole vision, everything from the color of this couch or the position of the couch or why we're going to light it this way or choose a location, to think about how your wardrobe helps tell the story, or not only performance, again, how things are edited, when you use music, not music,
Right.
or all the things, color, temperature, lenses,
Right.
like those things.
Everything plays out something.
I can geek out on that kind of shit too.
No, I love that. I love that you could geek out on that, because that's like literally, like you said, every little thing plays out.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you about the acting process. So we had Zach Braff recently, and we were just talking about.
He said right here, Zach Braff. Donald Faison, Zach Braff, CK. See the collection? Oh, baby. What you're drinking? What you're feeding me in these drinks?
You're funny. So he gave a lot of insight about,
That was a great interview. I love that. I watched it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It was talked about a lot about the relationship about actors and directors. And I want to talk to you about, how do you prepare on a role? Like, if there is a particular way you bring, well, you said you was talking about about how you bring a character to life. Like, how do you do that? How do you prepare before you get into a scene?
What depends, I guess. Well, the process, I guess, probably is always the same. Obviously, you read it and you read it and you read it. You read first for interest, then you might focus on your character, and then you read again, to see things you might have missed. And then depending on what the role is, how much research does it require? And you can geek out on that kind of thing. Repetition, obviously, just wanting to get the words in your bones.
When you go, do you you talk, or you look at yourself in the mirror? Or are you just it's always different?
No, I don't do the mirror thing. No.
No?
No.
Have you done it before?
I'm smiling because I used to do something I used to call mirror therapy as a kid. So mirror therapy is a tangent, but it's sort of connected.
Yeah.
So because the eyes are the windows of your soul, right? And so if I'm looking at you in the eyes and I want to see if you're telling the truth or connect with you, I can look at you.
Yeah.
So can you do that with yourself? Like, most people don't spend time with themselves. And so I used to stare in the mirror and be like, I want to see my soul. So I keep staring until I see the soul. That was mirror therapy, just a way to connect with myself. But it depends on the role. Martin Luther King comes to mind because I played Martin Luther King in the film called Betty and Coretta.
You did.
So that was those kinds of things are a gift to be able to work to embody the spirit of a person. When I got offered that, I was like, he was a small man. I can't physically,
Right.
I'm not, and I said no at first. And she's like, no, I think you could do this. You should, don't worry, you'll be sitting down a lot. And Angela Bassett played Coretta. But that role, just sitting with as much audio as you can, you pray to channel. At least I do.
That's a big
Like
that's-
to just embody the spirit of the person, because I don't think I necessarily look like him. Although they did take a picture of me and took a picture of him, and they made a painting that was hanging on the wall on set where it was literally a mashup of our faces, and I still have that painting. That was kind of cool.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was cool because you could look at the painting and think, oh shit, I see you in him and him in you.
Yeah. And how was it portraying Doctor?
That was an honor, man. I mean, it wasn't a huge part in the film, but even for that, like, I think I probably prepared for like 2 months or some shit.
Oh, wow.
It was a while. It was a long time. I love that kind of work, the work that can take you the furthest away from who you are. I did a film in Korea. It's a film called Take Point, where I played this dude from Sierra Leone, like a mercenary. So just getting into that work of the rhythm and cadence and accent, anything where it's like accents or it's something physical.
You're big on accent? Like you like to play different accent on movies?
I try to sneak them in as much as I can, even if they're not asked for them. You know, because that's something that I'm actually pretty proficient at. And, you know, there's not always the role to do it.
So has there been a challenging role or a scene that really pushed you or that you really struggle with?
Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah, I mean, no matter how much you prepare, at least for me,
Yeah.
no matter how much you prepare, particularly if you're preparing your own, you could feel like, all right, I have the material. I know like who this person is, or I'm still discovering who the person is, how they move, how they talk, walk, whatever it might be. And then on the day when you have to shoot it, like you don't always feel like everything has come together, at least initially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And depending on what it is that you're shooting, how much time you have, you may not feel like you ever get there. And it depends. If it's a film where you're not with the crew as long as, say, a series. So over time, if you do a series and you build a relationship with the crew, right?
Yeah, with the
Camera
crew.
with the camera department. Because like if it's a series, directors can come and go, right? For different episodes, right? It's a different director per episode. But the camera department that is always shooting, or the sound that's always listening, they can tend to develop a gauge of where you are. And so sometimes I've learned to lean more on them than a director. So I'll go to the sound guy, I go to the, A or B camera operator, cinematographers watching, like, yo, they're like, nah, you really nailed that. Because the director that's coming through doesn't always know what you're capable of. So you have to, especially in the series, you have to protect that.
Of course.
Because, a work for hire director just coming through wants to make their day. They're not always thinking about.
Because that's whatever your performance, that's your next gig. Like
Right.
people are gonna look at that work and how you did. It's definitely it's challenging because you have, somebody that's telling you something that looks good, but in your heart, it's not the best. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is true, sometimes you work with an actor and you're doing a scene with them, you're like, yo, I so don't fucking believe this person right now. And you're in the scene with them. You're like,
Oh, okay, I
that's the fucking worst.
Oh wow.
Because you try to be really present and connect with something, but there's like
yeah.
you could feel they're acting.
Oh.
But I've seen the final product and the shit looks amazing. And so I don't say shit anymore. like you just focus. Not that you're wrong, but it's so subjective, right? Because there's certain actors you could be in a moment with them, and the truth of that is so present and so apparent and so heavy and so connected that you're in it, and like you just it's spiritual.
Yeah.
It's transcendent. Like you can literally come out of that scene. It directs his cut. You're like,
I was deep.
like, yo, we fucking went somewhere. And so that doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen. And there can be times when that is what you hope to happen because the significance of that moment is so real, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't feel like you ever get there with the other actor, but you can look at the final product and it reads. And you're like, oh wow, that's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you look for a script, Like, are you looking for something that relates to you, or you just do it because you want to like take the challenge?
It depends. Number one, anything that I read, I just was reading the script over the weekend that I'm gonna act in and I'm gonna be a producer on it. It's an early draft. The first thing I'm looking for is to be taken away, to be taken on a journey, to feel so engaged and engrossed by the story and the characters and the writing and the world that's being created, and like where you forget that you're reading, where you're just like, oh my God, this is just amazing.
Yeah.
Then sometimes, more often than not, you read things, you're like, what page is this? Like, you start yawning, like, and you start seeing holes and wait, that didn't make sense. Wait, let me go back and like, why are we doing this now? But this has never been addressed. And so why are the stakes so high in this moment, but we've never met the person we're talking about? So there's all kinds of holes from a story standpoint. Those are hard. So in this particular case, I like the story that we want to tell. It just has to be executed at a higher level.
Okay.
So I was talking to the director yesterday, and he said he had similar notes, and some other characters had notes, but he's worked with this writer a number of times. Like, no, watch, like we give him the notes, he'll take it to the next level. We just want to get the idea down. So we'll see. Sometimes it's so there's a writer I work with. I've worked with her for over 10 years, trying to help her get her first thing ever produced. Like, so she's one of those people that's been wanting to crack the Hollywood code forever. And we were introduced to a publicist that used to read her books. And he said, you guys should meet. And we've pitched a few shows together. And sometimes, so we were working on something over the last year where I could read it, and then sometimes I can't help myself and I have to rewrite it. But because I want her to win.
Yeah.
And so sometimes she could write something and I'll like, yo, we've worked on a lot of stuff. Like, I'm not sure why it's still at this level, given what I believe you've learned. So maybe if I write it or rewrite it, it'll help you. Because do you see, like, take your draft and look at this. Because there's certain formulas, right? So if you look at a 3-act structure or 5-act structure, whatever it might be, certain things need to happen at certain times, right? In a character's journey, certain conflicts, certain resolutions, or those kinds of things are tried and true, right? And that's the structure. If you don't get those things, like for instance, we open a scene, page 1, act 1, there's a death, and everyone's broken up about this person. And we go through the first act, second act, third act. We never met the person. Everyone's broken up. There's never been a flashback. There's only words on a page.
Gotcha, yeah.
To try to get me to care about this person I've never met. So then you have to go to the writer and go, hey, we need to do a rewrite, or we have to meet this person. If we're going to care as characters and as an audience, no one's going to give a shit because we never met the person. Yeah. It's like we're talking about somebody, so it's now just exposition. But if we could see a beat or two to establish the relationship and what's at stake in that relationship, so when the loss happens, we all feel it. So little things.
There's little things. Yeah, right.
Right, which is a big thing.
And it will help the actor perform.
It'll help everybody.
Yeah, right. It's true. Everybody's.
We've all seen films where you go like, yo, it doesn't make sense. Why they don't care? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I true what you're saying. So, obviously Elephant it has a lot of people that work behind the scenes. So I want to talk to you about the relationship between actors and directors. Can you tell me how important it is, like, for an actor and director on set, like the communication?
I think it's critical. I mean, hopefully both parties respect each other. They appreciate what the other person brings to the table.
Yeah.
If they both have the same kind of level of experience and understanding of storytelling and the business and the process. Like as an actor, I think it's important to understand the director's process and vice versa.
Sure.
That's why a lot of times you hear actors say it's important for directors to take an acting class. So you can understand what actors go through, and you just don't bring an actor and say, well, stand here and say this and walk here at this line and do here, because I got this shot I want to do. And it's like, no, man, don't try to lock me into your vision of a shot without having a conversation, one, to help me understand why you want that shot so I can help you get what you want. Because if it's a film, it is a director's medium. If it's television, it's more of a producer or writer's medium.
Yeah.
But still the process should and could be respected the same way in terms of we're collaborating to get the best possible outcome.
Yeah.
I just think it's important that people really understand each other and that you can have a mutually respectful relationship. That does not always happen. You hear stories about like, can't stand that fucking director, but I did it anyway. Don't even have him talk to me. I want to let the first AD talk to me.
Yeah.
Like, or the producer. I don't, like, that's crazy.
Well, there's stories every day about that.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy. And I've worked with some interesting directors.
I bet you have.
I worked with some interesting directors.
That's why I asked you how important it is, because that's
yeah, man. I mean,
that plays a big part. That's why sometimes you might know a lot, but sometimes you have to just be open-minded and let other people that have come before you show you also like what they have learned. Because that's why I feel like we are always learning, and I know you love to learn as well. But like we are always learning every day.
Yeah.
So I want to show you something real quick. It's a TikTok with Gary Oldman. Fantastic piece of direction.
Jeremy, fantastic piece of direction.
I did a scene once in Batman, and he came up to me, and it was probably one of 2 notes he ever gave me in 7 years. And he came up to me and he said, let's do that one more time. There's more at stake. And I went, yep, got it, all right, let's do one more. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, that's a fantastic piece of direction. Yeah, I don't need to know the ins and outs of the whole universe. I just need that nudge. And then you go, oh, he just wants me to just turn it up. Yeah. I just need to adjust the volume on it. Not vocally, right, but the energy or the dynamic of it.
So for you, I want to ask you.
That's exactly it, man. So get this out that hard.
So I'm gonna ask you: has there been a moment where a director have gave you a similar aha moment?
Yeah.
Can you share?
Yeah, I mean that's I've definitely gotten that note from directors, absolutely. And in that case, right, I think that's a perfect example of you don't have a Gary Oldman on your joint and think that you need to give him a whole lot of direction, because I've never worked with him, but just having seen so much of his work, dude absolutely comes in prepared. And as a director, you hire people to see, like, what are you going to bring to this moment, to this role?
Yeah.
So they could be just as excited to see, like, and I've had those moments where, directors have been like, yo, I can't wait till we shoot like that scene because I'm so excited to see what you're going to do with that. And that's it sometimes. So they're going to let you do what you do. They do what they do and they go, yo, or turn it down. Or, you know what I mean? That time, like, you went a little too far with that. Like, so just show a little bit more restraint. Don't go all the way there with them. Like, dial it out. So,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great direction. I love great direction, man. Because you don't know.
Yeah.
You're out there just trying shit out.
Yeah. Right. It's true.
And then if it's what they like, you're okay. You like that? You sure? Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So, is there any? I think you shared, but right now, is there any directors working today that inspire you?
Yeah, man.
Many?
Back to Studio Binder, bro. Like, take your pick. But Denis Villeneuve comes to mind.
Yes.
Like, you know, there's this great stuff on Studio Binder when he breaks down the Sicario scenes where like they're coming through the border and how he chose to shoot that and create the tension in those moments. And, you know, he's very, very specific about how he covered that. And but then you look at the Doom stuff. I love, you know, Christopher Nolan, David Fincher, James Cameron.
Oh, wow.
You know, there are directors that are fucking scientists.
Yes.
Right. There are people out here who are like, let me create new technology or a new camera.
They create
to tell my story. I don't know. Spike keeps popping in my head just because he lives in Brooklyn. I see Spike a lot. But no, I mean, there's certain people that, you know, you could love their work for a different reason, right? When I think of someone like a Spike Lee, you know, just what it took to be a kid from Brooklyn who wanted to make movies and has, you know, really worked at the top.
And you could tell Spike Lee movies like is different.
Yeah. For the most part. I think some of it, especially his early work, but then you get into
early
like,
work.
which like you look at a Black Klansman, like, okay, that feels like it could be, but Inside Man, does that feel like a Spike Lee movie? Not.
No, not like what
Well,
it was in
right.
the beginning
Right.
stages. Yeah.
So, which is one of my favorite movies that he did.
It's
There's somebody I got to give him a shout out because
Yes.
he's new. His name is Leandre Thomas. And so one of the films I'm helping to raise some money for, he's got a film called This Is Private. He's currently a young director working with Industrial Light and Magic. So he's been directing like Star Wars stuff for them, TV stuff.
Wow.
But I got this script that he wrote and he's going to direct. And I called him at like midnight. Like I had it for about a month before I got a chance to read it. And I was like, yo, bro, anything you fucking need, I'm in. Like, I'll play any part in this movie. Because it reminded me tonally of American Fiction. In that you got a young Black writer writing some really refreshing, it's a really refreshing story about a young lady who's, she's a stripper, paying her way through Stanford, and she's studying psychology, and ultimately she ends up using her clients in the strip club as her patients. But the way he wrote this shit and the way the story plays out, there's like a bit of a thriller element to it. It's the way it deals with class and race and justice, and it's funny, it's sad, it's, you know, it's honest, it's so refreshing.
Yeah.
And so although Joel Edgerton apparently read the role, that I was like, yeah, I'll play that role because it's a role of a senator, and it makes sense if it's a white dude. But I'm like, bro, you can rewrite that shit. Like, but I'm like, whatever. Joel wants that role. That's fine.
Funny, man.
But but it's just one of those, like, I want to see this kid win
I love that.
because he's dope. It's how I feel about you, man.
Thank you, bro.
No, seriously, I said that to you. I mean that. No, man, I love to see the next generation be excited about the film business, even if the business is broken, because it is. Like the economics of it don't make sense right now. It's a very, very precarious time. You even have Gavin Newsom, I think in the last 2 days, decided they're going to bring a tax credit up to about, I think, $750 million for the state of California to be competitive with Georgia and New York to help bring some of the business back. Something like 26% of professionals across the board in California aren't working. Things that everywhere else, shooting in Europe, it's cheaper to shoot in London or than it is in LA.
Very true. You go to another country, it's definitely cheaper.
Yeah, that's why, you know, I shot this series in Cape Town in South Africa. Now, smaller budgets, but like my boy's a producer on it, you know. Shout out to Samad Davis. But I was there at the Joburg Film Festival screening my doc, the real estate mixtape, my real estate doc. And he was like, yo, man, you should come back in a couple months and shoot this with me. And I was like, bet, I'll do it. So
That's awesome. Well, let me talk to you a little bit about your real estate venture. You know, your new chapter. It's a new chapter for you, you know, with Yoba Development. Can you tell me a little bit about your...
Yoba Development? Well, I told a story earlier about meeting Reggie Bythewood on the train back in 1989. So Reggie ended up becoming a writer on the show. At some point in like probably 96, 97, was shooting up by Broadway at 72nd Street. He brings his cousin onto the set, Dan Bythewood. Dan had just gotten out of college and was about to get into real estate development. Fast forward 2007, I'd always wanted to get into development. I told you I tried to build a BMX track at Central Park. I didn't know that was called development, but I was always looking at empty lots in the neighborhood growing up in Harlem and the South Bronx. Like, I'm gonna put buildings here and build things. Love architecture, love design. And I didn't think about development from a financial standpoint, actually. It wasn't like, well, I want to do this to make money. I just thought, like, why does it have to be fucking empty lots? Why don't we have nice buildings here? So it was more like just beautification.
Yeah.
But in 2007, the Malik Yoba National Theater Company, we were producing a lot of touring shows, and I was looking for money. And so I was dating a woman who was a developer, and she said, yo, you should reach out to my friend Dan Bythewood. I was like, wait a minute, I know Dan from York Undercover. So I reconnect with Dan, and I tell him, hey man, I really want to learn, although I'm trying to get money from maybe to help me for my theater company. But when he told me he had gotten into development, I was like, yo, I've always wanted to learn development. So he said, why don't you come down to Baltimore? And he bought 14 acres on the west side of Baltimore, where The Wire was shot. So no one wanted to invest in that area in over 50 years. So coming from New York, seeing what happened in the Bronx and Harlem and Brooklyn, there was an opportunity to develop on the west side of Baltimore. And so that was my first seat at the table. And that was 2007. And then I just kept learning and, became a partner in the deal and brought some other people in. And just was really learning, like, from the ground up. And the more I learned, the more I felt like I wanted to teach. Like, I want to show people how this shit happens. And then fast forward, so in 2017, I started Yoba Development, and I didn't do anything with it yet. And then in 2018, I was shooting a show called God Friended Me. And I was playing a real estate developer of affordable housing in Harlem. And one day we're on set, and I'm on a construction site with a hard hat. And I would go back and forth to Baltimore and be on construction site with a hard hat. And I'm like, yo, like, I'm kind of art imitates my life, like right now. And so one day we were shooting in Brooklyn, and across the street was an entire city block that a company called RXR, one of the biggest development companies in the country, really. They were doing an entire city block. A guy named Scott Reckler is the CEO, and he and I sat on a board right down the street, actually. So right at the Starrett Lehigh building between 10th and 11th, or 11th and 12th, 11th and the West Side, is a building. We were on the board of the Center for Social Innovation for like 6 years. And so I would never talk to him about real estate. We would talk about social impact and the organizations that we supported on that board. And so when I'm shooting this show, he's developing this building right in front of Steiner Studios in Brooklyn. Down the block is the housing projects, Fort Greene. And I said, I wonder how many people from the projects walk by film sets and construction sites and have no idea about how any of this shit works. I'm in both of these worlds. I want to find a way to bring real estate, filmmaking, and working with young people together.
I love that.
And so it was in that moment that it's like, I want to figure this out. And so I shared this idea with a woman who now works with me. Her name is Leslie Ann. And her and a group of women, including the woman who got me my first 2 jobs working with kids, a woman named Perry Smilo, were meeting in my house about like this idea for a nonprofit. I shared this idea with these women that I wanted to bring these things together. And so Leslie Ann, 2 days later, she sends me a deck. It says, I Build New York.
Oh, yeah,
And she took my idea and articulated it, so the thought became a thing.
Wow.
And then I took that deck to Scott, and I said, hey man, I want to figure out how to do this. And I didn't know what it was going to be. I thought it was going to be some sort of after school program or summer program. And we would use film somehow. But the thinking was, if people just saw how I move and the people that I meet with and like what I'm actually doing off camera, that would be inspiring. And so Scott said, I'll fund it.
Oh, wow.
And so when he said that, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna shoot a documentary and I'm gonna like take some young people. This goes back to my City Kids days, right?
Yeah,
I would have never even thought about doing something like this if it wasn't for the work I've been doing with young people forever and using art to educate and engage. And so, long story short, in the summer of 2019, we went from the Hamptons to Newburgh, New York. And I curated a list of about 65 professionals of color, from architects to engineers to construction workers to other developers, people in finance, and then very cinema noir. So in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna make an art film. It just happens to be about real estate.
Yeah.
So I was very cinematic in my approach, right? Handheld and, you know, definitely cinema noir kind of feel, because I wanted people to feel like they were with me. That ended up becoming something called a real estate mixtape, which we shot in 2019. COVID happened in 2020. I was going to work with these other editors. I ended up editing it myself on iMovie, by the way, because I had Premiere. I was like, yo, I don't have time for the learning curve. I know iMovie. I cut this thing together, and the short story is, in the last 2 years, I've been to 51 states and 6 countries, screening this all over the world.
Wow.
And it's changed my life. And it has really been the tool that I've used to build Yoba Development into a global brand. It's led to me starting a federal government contracting company, because I was screening at a real estate conference when a woman was teaching people about the 8-8 program, which has led to a lot of storytelling opportunities for government agencies. So there's a lot of good stuff that's happening on the government side, which is Yoba Global Solutions, which is a whole other company that I started with my siblings, 2 of my sisters, a cousin and childhood friend, because I wanted to bring them into the opportunities to take an entrepreneurial path in their life. So that's, you know, I just finished our first contract with Department of Defense, working on something with Department of Transportation. But in all these spaces, storytelling is everything. It's how we use film and storytelling in other spaces.
Yes.
Like, the world is not filled with storytellers and filmmakers. So for you filmmakers out here, you have an opportunity to use your gifts in other spaces. It doesn't just have to be Hollywood. And guess what? You can make more money doing it.
That's true. So I know you worked with Tyler Perry, and that's a question I really want to ask you. You collaborated with him in the past, like movies, Why Did I Get Married and What Did I Get Married To? Can you tell me a little bit quick, what was your first impression with him and your experience working with Tyler Perry?
I'm proud. I'm very, very proud of Tyler. You know, here's another example of someone who wasn't in the business that, you know, started writing plays. And there was a very robust market in the Black community for touring shows. And that's we could do a whole other episode on that, and how I'd done 13 tours in that world and saw that, you know, you could turn these into film and TV. He was able to do that and build his whole studio with no disrespect to anything he did. That was the mission I was on when I had the Malik Yoba National Theater Company, when I told you I was trying to raise money from the developer, because I saw that if I'm out here on the road, and the first play I did, we made $5 million in 12 weeks, $3 million was profit. And this is not a Broadway show. This is not a union show. These are shows that were servicing Black people. And so Tyler, that's what he was doing. He made $100 million doing those plays before he ever did his first movie.
I know.
And so he was able to leverage that audience and build what he's built. So all due respect to that. So I had nothing but love for Tyler Perry.
It's amazing.
You know, I got a call, hey, can you play Janet Jackson's husband in this movie? While I was going through a divorce, by the way. And there's a whole other, 4 of us were going through a divorce during that first movie. Jill Scott, Tasha Smith, and Ruben Cannon, the producer. And so I got a call on a Sunday afternoon, finishing brunch, driving down Pacific Coast Highway, and my agent called, said, "Hey, can you be in Vancouver on Tuesday?" It was a Sunday. "Can you got this role?" And I was like,
How was that feeling? Like,
well, the crazy part is I was shooting the show Girlfriends, and we had just finished on a Friday night, and Richard T. Jones and I forgot which one of the cast of Girlfriends was sitting in the dressing room, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm about to go do this movie with Tyler Perry." And I was like, "Man, Tyler hasn't called me yet about none of his movies." And I knew Tyler from The Play Game before he even did his first movie. In fact, before he even released Diary of a Mad Black Woman, he invited me to the editing suite to watch it. And it was just Darren Grant who directed it, Tyler, Reuben Cannon, myself, and my ex-wife watching that movie. And so when Tyler had his first movies come out, and, I hadn't gotten a call, not that I was necessarily expecting one, but when Richard told me he was doing Why Did I Get Married, I was like, man, that's crazy. Fucking Tyler hasn't called me. 2 days later, I get the phone call to join in a casting.
you manifested.
And so, yeah, and Richard had invited me to church with his wife to work on this, it was this session they were doing to help couples.
Yeah.
And long story short, I was like, I'm gonna go work my shit out
That's beautiful.
on this movie.
I love that.
And that's what happened.
And look at you. And it's crazy how I was just saying, like, you manifested. It's crazy that, watching those type of movies when I was young and then speaking to you in person, I'm truly grateful and thankful that, we crossed paths and you were able to come and meet me in person. One of those questions I want to ask you, since I'm big on gratitude and I'm thankful for the people that have helped me, like my mother, the people around me right now, and also God is a big part of my life. I want to ask you, what are you most thankful for?
Life itself.
It's beautiful.
Just being here, man.
Being here right now,
Just
right?
being here.
How lucky are we to just be here?
Be alive, man. I've faced death a few times. Only told you one. I'll tell you the other.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So just the fact that I'm here, that we're still here, we've lost so many people. To be able to wake up every day in relatively good health.
We got breath.
And yeah, man. And, especially at this chapter, man, I wake up every day as the founder and CEO of Yoba Development, builder of people, places, and things. That is our slogan. And I get to pursue things that I love. I'm not waiting on the phone to ring. I'm not waiting. I'm producing film, I'm acting in film, I'm doing real estate, I'm running education programs, doing government contracting, I do a lot of speaking. I'm building relationships with brands, I'm storytelling in different spaces. And so it's a lot, but it's my a lot.
Yes.
And my father would always say, build your own generator. So when they turn off the power, you still have lights. You see how I just gave you something to cut? Boom, bam. The true shot to the stable, baby.
I saw that. Hey, man, thank you for being here. I appreciate you, brother.
This is great. Now we're going to talk about how you're going to...
Yes.
This is really important what you're doing, man.
Thank you.
It's really important.
That means a lot to me, seriously.
No, it's really important.